Yeah, so hot on the heels of the newly released to open source metrics, there's a few more bits that we've developed in-house and used in-house, and then moved them out to the sort of wider community. These have just a couple of bits here that have just released this last week. So we'll start off with the old traditional admin. This is Preside 1024. You will notice we have a new logo, which arrived last week, very last minute. So yes, this is now a Preside platform. Originally it was Preside CMS, then it became Preside, and now it's the Preside platform. Just to, it just emphasizes the fact that it's not just a CMS. So if we have a look at this, as you look in here, we'll log into this, and that is the admin theme that you've all come to know and love, and it hasn't changed really in a long time. So if you do a basic install now using the command box Preside installer, you will get a site which includes the alternate admin theme, which I will show you. So it's an optional extra, but so you'll see a few things that are immediately different. First is we have moved all the main navigation up to the top bar. We have the same items here. I mean, you've got the site switcher as before, which is in the top bar, but now you've got your site tree and your assets and your data, and all these things are in the top menu bar. So if you do nothing else, that is what you'll get from the new admin theme, and you can see the buttons have been given a sort of little styling overhaul. They've been moved so that they appear up with the breadcrumb here, and we've also got we've got a new font as well. So it just generally gives it a much fresher look. But it also allows a whole load of customizations to be done as well, nice and easily. So first up, we're going to try customizing the navigation. So if we look at the navigation, we can set up some top nav items. A few versions back, I think it was 1019, the underlying structure of how the admin menus are built changed. It used to be a whole bunch of just included viewlets for each one, but now it's a data structure which drives the menus and makes it much easier to maintain. And the documentation is all there in Preside. But so just with these lines of code, and if we go back in here and refresh that, should take a second. It's that Zoom slowing it down again, isn't it? Okay. Okay, so you can see straight away that we've rearranged it. We've now got a CMS menu, which has all those things in it. These are the same menu items. We've just told it to put them in a different place, and the email center. There's also the option we've added in. Yes, if we go in here, you also have the option to disable the site switcher. The majority of the sites you will be using don't have multiple sites, so it's not terribly useful. So this site switcher will shortly disappear. And so we've got this site manager thing, which we've got set to appear here. So we can manage the site still from in there, but it just saves some screen real estate up at the top there. So yes, the menu, it's a nice, easy data structure. There's conventions, which means you can say, well, I'll show you in a minute with the others, but you can say, yes, this is a link to a data manager object, and it's got built-in rules that let you say, determine how it knows if it's an active menu item or not. And I mentioned the buttons. There are some new button styles now. There are a number of rules that are in place which do its best to map old buttons to new button styles, and it's fairly yeah, and that should do most things. But when you're designing your own admin applications, you can use a whole bunch of new button classes, which will then let you specify exactly which buttons you want. And I've got a little page here. So there are three different, well, there's a matrix of primary, secondary. So you've got the primary there, a secondary button, a tertiary button, which is an outline, which is hovered over, and then you've got a text button, which is text until you hover over it. And for each of those, you have the sort of default, and you have a neutral, and you have a sort of a danger. But yeah, but if you use any of these classes on your button or anything that is styled as a button, so it might be a link as well, those will override any of the automatic sort of mapping that we've done. So it just enables you to have control over what buttons show in your admin interface. One of the things for this sort of the base admin theme that we have here that we've open sourced was the ability to then extend it and customize it for different situations. Internally, we have a few different products. We have a general ready membership product, and we have a charity product, which have slightly different branding and coloring across the top. So one of the things in here was to make it nice and easy to customize. And so this is all done with CSS properties or CSS variables. And if you're doing any themable site, this is the way to go these days. It's supported across browsers, but it means that you don't have to have numerous override CSS that says this color is important for this button, this color is really, really important and overrides all the other important rules that I've got. This just sits in, these are referred to by the base CSS, and at any point in your application, you can just say, actually, no, I want my base font color to be red, not black. And it'll just pick that up with one line of code wherever that's used. So if I have a look here, we move. So, and if you'd have a look through here, there's a whole lot of things you can set. For instance, there's the base font, there's font colors for different headings and sizes. And you can override some of these success and notification colors. I probably want to leave them alone, but you can change them if you want to. And you've got button styling, including padding and border radius and things like that. And then this is the more interesting bit, which is the branding. So this is the things like the primary colors of your site, navbar colors, and you can use these to override images as well. So I will show you a custom login screen in a minute, which is just done using a few of these. But here, at the moment, we're just going to say, okay, well, we're going to have a different navbar color in here. And in our CSS, in our config CFC, there's a new setting here. You can pass it an array of sticker CSS assets, which will be included in any admin context page. So it's a good place to put, you may have other custom CSS that you're going to use in your admin. It's nice, it's a really easy way of including that throughout your admin. So we've now included my custom admin CSS, and it's contained in here. So now when we refresh this, a few seconds more because it's running in Zoom. So now, yes, we've got, and that's a very simple example. We've got a green menu bar at the top there. I will show you an example of styling the admin screen as well. So this is one of my own personal sites. So you can, this is an alternate styled login screen. You can set the background image, you can set the branding logo, you can configure all sorts. You can, here I've removed the box completely from here, but you can change the size, colors of that. But again, that is just by setting a handful of CSS variables, and it just picks it up. So yes, there's a bunch of stuff that can be done there, which you can sort of customize the look and feel of the admin for your application. Also in here, there's a sort of slightly new layout. Now we've moved the main navigation to the top. There's a bit of space at the side. And if I show you, for instance, I think this is about the only place that uses it in the core admin. But if we go into the profile and settings, you can see we have a new sort of admin sidebar, which is basically for secondary navigation. And this is if we have a look here, so there's two bits. You have an array of sort of sidebar menu items, which are configured pretty much the same as these. So they have a title, they have an icon, they can have whether it's active or not. If we have a look at the code for the edit profile, you can see, yes, so we got, it's done by setting the admin sidebar items, and we're making an array of these. So yeah, you can say, is it active? What's the link? What's the title? What's the icon? And just by setting these in the private scope, these will then get rendered here. If you're showing a sidebar like that, you also have the opportunity to set a sidebar header, which can be whatever you want. It's you just pass it a rendered chunk of HTML. Here it's the name and email address here. So you can see we can say, yes, we've got this, and it's rendering this view with the admin user. But that can be anything you like, really. So yes, this is it's just it goes nicely with the to give a secondary navigation when you're using this top bar. So that's most of the changes in the admin extension. it's here, it's version 1.0 now, it's on ForgeBox, and you will see in here, there's plenty of instructions here. So if you look here, oh yes, you can also, there's a couple of bits and pieces you can set. So there's the top nav items, which is the array of the navigation items at the top, which can be nested with children as per the existing Preside stuff. You can tell it to turn off the icons in the top menu as well if you want to, and that just saves up on some space or makes it tidier if that's what you want. And you can also set the admin favicon logo. The avatar size is just the size of the admin user's picture, and then there's the array of custom CSS, which we saw, and the other things we saw in here. So yes, I mean, that's all there in ForgeBox now. And right, so moving on from that, there's another internal extension that we've been using, which gives you slightly more control and a nicer view of the sort of view record screens within Data Manager. If we have a look, actually, if I go in here, I will just enable a few extra things in here. I got very lazy and I've used Jan's import data from the Star Wars API just to give me some data to work with. Okay, so we've got these here, and we can see that I haven't added the yeah, so you can see by default there's the convention for where it's looking for sort of the IETN for these if it's not specified explicitly, and I of course haven't. Was it the menu item property, wasn't it? So let's do that. This time we'll just reload those, and then okay, so here we've now got our custom menu item, and each of these is a data manager object. If we look at the config, so we can see our top nav items, one of them is Star Wars. And then we set up admin menu item Star Wars, and it has these sub-menu items. And then for each of them, you can give it some build link args and active checks. And so this is how it builds the link. And we're saying, oh yes, it's just a data source object, and that's the object name. So it'll build a link to that. And then the active check is, okay, I know that it's that data manager object, and I can tell therefore if that is where we are currently. So, and it then, because we haven't specified any titles in here, it just picks them up from the convention from this menu item properties. So if we have a look at some of these, we can see that we have our normal data grids, films, and then you have a look at pages, and yeah, it's pretty dull. It's it chucks out all the data of an object, but yeah, it's a bit dull. So we introduced a few conventions and methods that allow us to customize this, and this is now in core Preside. It was one of our private extensions. It's now part of core Preside as of 10.24, and they are called enhanced record views. And so if we go to our data manager handler, so the simplest thing is the first thing, your data manager handler for the object has to extend the enhanced data manager base. And at the moment, that's all we're doing in here. So if we have a look at that and reload it. Back, so it's a slightly different URL to get there now. So if then we go back into here and you look at it to start with and you think, actually, that doesn't look much better, which is fine. That's just all we've done so far is saying, yes, we're using this new display method for this page, but we haven't set anything up on it at all. So there are a few bits of, well, there's a couple of bits of this page really. There's this block at the top, which is the info bar, and you can customize what goes into here, little key bits of information about the record. By default, it's in 3 columns, and by default, you get the date created and the date modified up in there. But you can also tell it to include other data items in there. So in this handler, we are going to say, okay, in column 1, I want to show my episode ID and release date. These are properties on the data object, and director and producer in the second. And so it will put these in there. It will just render them out using the standard renderer. So at the moment, yes, that doesn't really tell you what that information is, but it just renders out the data directly. But then you can come in here and find our info card methods. So if we uncomment those. So again, these are by convention. So you've got _info card and then the property name. And so all we're going to say here is, okay, I'm not just going to say the episode ID, I'm going to return a little sort of strong label in front of it and then do output the data. And I've got those for these 4 items. So just that. Oh, I'm going to have to refresh that, aren't I? Because I've added options. So yeah, and you can see that yes, you can. So at the top of the record, you can have a nice little ribbon info card that just displays some key information right up front and center. You can also, there's a description field which you can add at the top, so you can pull out any. So the info description is going to be the, so this is the introduction. And then if we have a look at that, that will pull out the text, but again, it's the, oh, I've skipped a bit there, haven't I? Yes, I shouldn't have. Yeah, you've had a sneak preview there of what's coming, but yes, yeah, that's just a little bit of CSS that sort of 3D transform, but yeah, so it will. This is just using its default render, which is plain text. So yes, that might be all you need, but if you're going to put something up at the top there, then you're probably going to want to customize it a bit. So yes, it uses the same info card convention to render that. And so yes, I mean, it's just rendering it as plain text, and then there's a little bit of a CSS that plays with it a bit. Yeah, and that's probably a bit big because it takes up all your screen, but it's just an example to show that you can put in there whatever you like. What I'm actually going to do now, though, is I'm going to take those. I'm going to take that out again. Where was it? It was in here, wasn't it? So let's get rid of that. So that's the sort of the info card at the top there. You can see at the bottom here, it's given us an idea of what we need to do to actually fill out the rest of the page. It's so there's a single tab. So the idea is here that you have a number of tabs which are switchable. But yes, if you don't specify anything, it just looks for a single default tab, which you need to create a viewlet for. But we're going to create a few custom tabs here. So we're going to have 6 tabs there. And we are going to find out, oh yes, I've got tabs, haven't I? And I want to. So basically each tab, you return the content of the tab. And if we have a look at that.
Switch off the handler caching.
It doesn't pick up new methods though.
No, but the other stuff does work when we
change
it.
Yeah. But a lot of what I'm doing is sort of adding in new methods, and it doesn't. Yeah. So here now we've got some tabs. I've got some. I haven't found those yet. So we've got. Start what's on properties. So yes, again, it's conventions for the tab names. It's view tab, name of the tab and the title, and name of the tab and icon class. So if we have a look at that and reload that. Okay, so we've now got some tabs, and each of these, so it's showing a data table of related data for this particular film. And it's you can also customize these tab titles using a so you might want to put in a badge with a count on the end of these. Again, there are convention-based handler methods in this handler that let you decide how these tab titles get rendered. If a tab itself has no content, so if your method returns an empty string, then the tab will not show. So that's, but the other thing also is that in this sort of configuration of it, it loads all the content of all the tabs when it loads the page, which might be a bit of a, and the data itself for each of these tables loads when you open the tab, but it is rendering all the tabs at the start to know when to display them. But there's a better way now as well. So what I'm coming on to next. Right. So in the this also makes use, if you have the alternate admin theme installed. We saw earlier in the so we saw in the edit profile, we saw this sidebar. We can tap into this with our view here as well. So if we go back into here, And if we have a look at our this, and we can say, yes, we want to turn sidebar navigation on for this view record. And then all those tabs suddenly move to the side there. And you have them like that, and it just, again, it makes it a little bit cleaner. The advantage also in this method is that it only renders the current tab, so it might save you a bit of a overhead. But yes, so rather than having it switchable, all loaded, and it's just switching which is visible, these are, if we have a look at the URL, yes, and you can target one of these tabs directly with the URL as well, by saying which tab you are viewing. And you can see that we've got this, the info card is showing at the top here on all the tabs. We think, actually, yes, we can find a better way of displaying that. So what we will do is, by just setting each of those 3 info columns to an empty array, it won't show them at all. And I'm going to also add in, this is a convention in this handler, which is render sidebar header. And this does 2 things. One is we say display page header is false, which means that this title won't be shown at the top here. We will be responsible for rendering that somewhere useful ourselves, but it just means that it won't show at the top of each of these tabs. And then we have a rendered sidebar header, which is just a nice, easy thing here. So if we save that and then reload this. So now we've got our header here, which appears on every single thing above the options. And we don't have the info card or the title at the top here, so you just get your tab content. Again, it sort of cleans it up and makes it, just gets you directly to your sort of relevant data. We can also, if we have a look at this handler here, there's an option you can set a specific class for your sidebar header. So if you're putting custom content in there, you can say, yes, okay, I want it styled in this way. So if you give it a class, and if we look in here, so yes, I've just got Star Wars film header, that's the class I've assigned to it. So I've got just a few little rules in there. And then if I reload this, okay, yeah, hasn't changed it much, but you can see that you've got full capacity to style up that header however you want. And we'll then finally take a look at these tabs down here, because we can also, it's in, we have menu item rules or methods. So each of these menu items is generated automatically from the from your menu items array. And there's a few things you can set on there, like icons and the title, and whether it's visible or not, and what the link is. You can, for each of those menu items, you can actually add extra data or overwrite data. So for instance, for each of these menu items, you can return a struct, and whatever it is in this struct will get merged on top of the automatically generated thing. So you don't have to redefine the title or anything. You can say, all I want to do is say, yes, I want to add a badge for each of these, which is a record count for that object, or for how many of the related records there are here. So if we come down here and
That's a question, Debbie. Does you demo the visibility? Because I think it's probably counterintuitive.
yes, yeah. So now it's using all the same thing, but it's appending, it's giving that there's a badge on there as well. So I can say we've got 4 planets, and yes, we have got 4. So that's all happening there. Yes, if we have a look, that's not that one, it's this one, isn't it? Yes. So these enhanced record views, they're all this is the beta that have we released the full documentation?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, this will be on the full documentation now as well within the data manager area. And if sidebar navigation, so the whole section in here saying yes, if you've got the alternate admin theme, it's very likely that in some upcoming release of Preside, the alternate admin theme will no longer be an alternate admin theme, but we will actually make it the default. But we're just sort of phasing it in at the moment. And
the other thing we need to do is update the license, because at the moment the license says that you can't change the Preside admin. You have to keep it, but everyone ignores it and does it anyway. So,
yes, we probably ought to do that. Yeah.
So I think we need to be a bit more measured in terms of updating the license to say, yes, you can override it, but you need to keep a reference on the override to say how much.
Yeah.
That kind of pays it forward
Yeah.
in terms of other people being able to discover the platform. So I think we need to change the licensing, copyright and licensing statement that says you're free to change it around it, do what you want, but you need to retain some kind of reference.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So this gives these are the menu item. This is what a menu item consists of. So these are all generated automatically. But you can see here we generated the badge. You can also add a badge class. So basically, you've got one of the 4 state colors for it. So you might have a red one. That class may be just based on some logic within that handler. So it might not always be red. But if you wanted it to be red under certain circumstances, you can set the badge class. There is also an option display, and by default display is true. It will display it. But if you say, okay, display is false, so it may be that you've got so yes, it might be feature flagged or something like that. So if a feature is not enabled, then do not display this menu item. Of course, you can also set feature flags within your when you define a menu item in the first place for the top menu and the side menu. That's an example. You may have other reasons why you wouldn't be showing this that aren't just might have slightly more complicated logic to decide, no, I don't want to show this.
Permissions.
It might, yes, permissions, exactly, yes. Yes, if we so here we have, so now we've got our custom sidebar, we've got tabs with custom labels in them, we've got our tabs, got this rendered, and so yes, it gives you a bit more flexibility to customize and just make your view records look nice without having to reinvent everything every time. any other yeah, so that's the that is the sort of enhanced data record views. Where are we? I just wanted to show you one very quick other thing, which is also, so yes, when I was saying earlier, when you do the default, so install the basic Preside skeleton, now it will, yes, it will install the admin theme by default. It also installs the launcher by default. I don't know how many of you are aware of the launcher extension. Are you doing it?
Yeah.
I will leave that then, but but yes, so if you go in here, it's also a keyboard shortcut. So if you hit the / key, it comes up / is it? If you hit the / key, then it will it gives you, first up, it shows you what the links are on this page. So
you get cramped with the German keyboard, right? You have to do like 4 keys.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. But yes, it picks up the actions, the buttons on this page. It shows you what you've recently visited. Out of the box, you've got nice quick access to system information stuff. So sort of stuff in your menu. What was it?
JavaScript based actually. So some of it literally is crawling the page.
It's fine. Yeah, yeah.
So if you've got any kind of link in the app, it will pick it up. So anything on that spam menu will.
Yeah, yeah. So if we look, for instance, yeah, let's go to task. So yes, we've got task manager. Bang, we go to the task manager. But it will also look up objects. So if we have a look at our, was it in here? Yes, it was in here, wasn't it? So yes, you can just say, I've got some data sources. These are data manager objects I want to be available in here. So if I do that and reload, it's something I always forget there. It's so quicker, so much quicker to find all sorts of things using it, and I always end up forgetting it's there. But so, for instance, if we hit that and then we start looking for, okay, so immediately you can go there and then straight to that record, or yes. So you've got films, starships. So yeah, the Jedi, and you go into. So yes, if you've not come across the launcher before, then yes, it is now installed. So yeah, we give it to you sort of straight away out of the box when you do your skeleton install. But it's a really nice thing to have in there, and you can do all sorts of custom. Like that's just sort of looking at data sources by label. But you can do add all sorts of custom information in there as well. But I won't go into that here.
I've got a question. So does it obey the permissions on that object as well? So if I've locked it down so I can't see a particular object.
Yes.
What he said.
It's 30 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's just a quick run through of how you might just sort of spruce up your admin a bit. So yes, there are internal things which have just been open sourced, and it sounds like there will be more things coming open source soon.
I think launcher was open source.
Yes, launcher was already. Yes, yes, but I think we've only just sort of started sort of advertising it by installing it by default. Anyone got any questions? Yes.
Plenty of questions.
There we go. Yeah. Yes.
First of all, very interesting extension, very, very helpful. Is the admin theme based on a
CSS framework templates, stuff like that, because the old one was based on a ready to run framework.
It's all still based on ACE admin, right?
That's the question.
Ace admin is still present in this one, is it? Or is it just Bootstrap? And it's still the old version of Bootstrap because we have so many of these kind of fundamental bits that are going to take us a lot of time to rewrite. So we haven't managed to.
Yeah, and it's
automatically the next question.
Yes.
Libraries.
We will address that.
yes,
Okay.
it's tricky because especially with all the stuff that's been built on top of it, making sure nothing breaks
Yeah.
is yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the last question for the moment is, what about if I want to? So when I get it right, I'm able to create my own admin theme completely from scratch, more or less. What if I would like to do something more dynamic, like reactive view for admin theme? Then I need to communicate with all the data via JSON APIs. Is that possible? Cost extra.
Yeah, you don't need, it's just HTML, commission, but there's no, we have no official, like API.
It's not, yeah.
for view.
It's currently designed just to be rendered out like that, so there's not really a
What
but
might be
having
interesting is creating another alternative admin scheme that could be like based on view with like various other things. Because I mean, very obviously love to do that, but it's gross the.
but you could probably do something that would take the configuration, because yes, I mean the way it is now, the all the top menu items are a configuration in code rather than rendering little viewlets. So you could take that and expose that some other way. So use the same top nav items array and just have an endpoint that exposes it somehow. Yeah.
That's it for the moment.
Although those, they do have there's permissions thing in there, so we determine, yes, are you allowed to see this menu item? So you would have to have a way of making sure that your query into it knew exactly who was querying it and what it should come back. So yeah, in theory, yes, it's possible.
And I think, I guess what's nice now is that we've got an admin team extension waiting to go, oh, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Not probably on board, but copy paste,
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
And I think what we need to do is come up with some viewlets that allow you to override the extension, override the view, but maybe some just some more efficient viewlets that you can just call in something like because as I said, at the moment it's a little bit overtly restricted. It says, you know, you mustn't do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's an old bootstrap, it's still the version 3, right? Yeah, with additional change.
Is it Bootstrap 3? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it 3? Yeah. Yeah.
What we now? Well.
Oh, yeah.
Currently, we are Bootstrap 5.4.
Oh,
Yeah.
The question, but the next one should probably be Bootstrap 6, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a big problem in the admin, I think, but you get crazy if you work with version 3 and version
Yeah.
5. Because
Yeah. I mean, we use a lot of it's not just the Bootstrap styling, it's some of their components as well, and we have custom sort of extension stuff built on top of those components that extend those components. So for instance, some of our multi-pickers and things like that, there's a lot of stuff in there which it definitely won't be an easy upgrade.
I think when we release Preside, I think this is a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
When you do the front end editing as well, then the menu bar as well appears.
Which? Oh yes. Let's we go to yes. If we come in here, and yeah, you got the same, and this also has the it includes whatever your sort of custom admin CSS at the top there is as well. So
First thing in projects, deactivate this menu board.
Oh, yeah.
For reasons, because we are having projects with Tailwind with Bootstrap 5, this is what is not working if you are running on modern frameworks.
What it wants to be really, what I want to do is just to have it so it's just maybe a little icon you can in the corner, and if you click it, I know, it just pops up over the top rather than
I noticed myself, so I need to update that extension.
Yes.
And one last thing to notice as well, to talk about actually, is the logo got released, just came out. Out the designers are like, oh, we've got new logos. Like, oh, great, okay. So we stuck it in there, and then the designers went on holiday and got sick. Clearly, we have some contrast issues with the. There will be an update.
Okay.
Yeah. It looks nice on a light background.
And then so this admin team had a whole load of work with actual designers, which always accelerates things and makes things so much nicer.
Oh, and please release items that are ready for printing stuff or something like that on the website.
Vaccine.
For faxing, doing fax service shows. Yeah. That would be good.
Yeah. And if you like a carrier pigeon as well.
Big cost for design and looking at
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have to lobby the designers a little bit because when I started changing it, it no longer looked like a parrot. I was like, no, you got to change the beat pack.
It definitely looks like a pride puff in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not.
What I missed, the login screen customization is part of the admin extension.
Yes, if I just find, because I had so if I can very quickly bring up
Because that actually could be a selling point for some clients.
Yes.
We also have an extension.
They're going to give you money. Yeah.
We have an extension as well that allows you to rotate the background image with editorial. Like
Yeah.
you put in the admin.
Yeah.
So those. So that is the only code that makes that login screen. So it's a different logo, different background color, set widths and heights, and saying the login box is transparent, but you could have it. So just 10 lines of code there, and it just works.